So I got cut off. I don't know why, but we back. We back. Okay, so what? Identity. What contributes to it? Keeping promises to ourselves, not letting yourself off the hook, right? Believing the right things about yourself, believing what God says about you, right? And walking in that. That is, a part of it, right? Identifying baggage. So that way you are being conscious of the things that you need to move out, right? Those things that you may have acquired along the way that have impacted you in a negative way. They've added hurt, right? When we go through, there's I'm going to say grief, right? That blankets a lot of things. Grief is not just the loss of a loved one in their transition from life, right? It's not just that. It's the loss of a job. It could be the loss of, a friend. It could be the loss of many things. Like I can't even think of everything right now. Losing weight, gaining weight. That all of those things impact your identity and how you see yourself. Anything that knocks at how you see yourself can thrust you into grief, right? Which is loss, right? Which is longing for something that you once had and that you knew and that was a part of you in some capacity. And when you lose that, now we're trying to figure out who we are now, right? And it takes a while to even get to the place where you ask that question, like, who am I now? Like, sometimes it's just like, I'm in a fog and I don't know what I don't know. I don't know what questions to ask. I don't know who to ask. I don't know who to, right? Like, you can just kind of wonder. When my father passed, I remember praying early on in the process because I started to feel really strange. I didn't know what it was. I was in a fog. But my prayer was like, Lord, please just don't let me become one of the walking dead. And what that meant to me was the people who move about in life as the walking dead, right? You think that they are engaged and that they're feeling and they're loving and they're just doing the things and saying the things that they know people want to hear and people want them to say, but they're not connected. They're fully disconnected. I felt like my soul, I should say, not my spirit, but my soul was sitting drooped, collapsed down in my feet, but my body was still moving about in this world, right? In this life, talking to people, doing things that I had no real connectivity to, right? So that was the prayer, and grace of God, he didn't allow that to happen, but there was a phase where I didn't know, and that's how people lose themselves, right? Because they don't even know where they are. They don't know what to say, to ask, to pray, to do, who to say it. Like, it's just kind of a wander, right? And you end up being lost. And so again, I'm just saying all of that, right, contributes to identity, how we see ourselves. And some folks don't come back from that. But for those of us who can talk about who we used to be, means that, yeah, maybe you did go through that phase and you didn't get stuck there, right? That's how The Walking Dead, you get stuck there. You don't want to get stuck there. Going through it is a part of life. It's a part of process. Remember, every process has a process attached to it. There's always process. We're always going through process, but we don't have to get stuck and stay in process. We want to move through it and get to the next level. So those are the fundamentals, right? This stuff I'm talking about, I would consider the fundamentals, right? The fundamentals of growth. Just like basketball, I think a video I touched on that, like Michael Jordan or, some of the greats, like they practice the fundamentals. That's what makes them great. They never tire of the basics. You can't forget the basics because every new level in life, you're starting again. You're just starting again with the set of tools that you acquired from the level previously, right? The level before this one. So that is something that we need to remember. And also remember that the life you're living today was created by your thoughts from yesterday. So examining our environment is crucial. What life do you want to live tomorrow? Well, it's established by the thoughts you think today. This is how people get stuck and they go, man, how have I been in this same place for 25 years or however many years? And like, they're just trying to figure out, like, I don't know why I can't move past this place. It's because you're thinking the same thoughts. It's Groundhog Day in your mind over and over again, right? You're thinking the same thing, which produces the same results. right? Everybody likes to say insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a new result. Well, let's tack on no expectation. Let's tack on maybe we don't even have an expectation. We're just moving through, right? And you believe somewhere in there that this is just how it goes. You believe this is the norm somehow. It's normal for you because, or like that's your perspective. Our life and our reality is created by our perspective on it, right? So if we look at something as a challenge, it will be a challenge. If we look at it as an opportunity, it will turn into an opportunity. It doesn't mean it'll be easy, but that perspective might give you a different level of energy and drive to push through it if it's an opportunity. If it's a challenge, you might go into it feeling fatigue already because your mind has told you this is hard, this will be hard. And hard is usually connected to you could end up losing here somehow, right? And then that's where fear creeps in. That's where fear creeps in. And don't think that fear is not a form of faith. All right. Unfortunately, it is, right? Faith is believing in that which we don't see, that's not here yet, right? I'm just going to give you that example. But it's, it's that belief in things as though they are, even though they're not. Now, we can use that same thing can apply to the things you fear. That you think something bad will happen, even though it has not. You're fearing that, or you're fearing a loss, or you're fearing that you cannot do blank, right? So you don't want to put faith in fear, right? Because that knocks at your identity, right? We're talking about building our identity. We have to build it up. We have to clear our mind in such a way that we move with that clarity. Remember, clarity kills doubt. So we're moving out doubt when we start to identify these little ticks and these little, things that chip away at us that just kind of they're almost like dust bunnies. It's kind of like when you go to clean out the attic or you go to clean out an old room or a closet or something that's just, you've had tons of items, or a storage unit, even better, right? Like you've had stuff there forever. You forgot what was even in there, but you need to clean it out. And maybe you're going there for one item and it's way back in the back. It's way in the back. And so you're pulling all the things out, right? And as you go through, you're like, I forgot this was here, and I forgot about that, and I forgot about that. You start to remember who you are, right? You remember parts of you because they got tucked away back there, right? And then all these little dust bunnies fly up out of nowhere. They've just been accumulating over time. And then you can't use the item that you went for because you got to clean it off, right? So blocks, those are little bitty blocks. But as you're pulling out old things and remembering who you are, it's adding to your identity as well. Because sometimes, like I said, that baggage of life, right, can start to stack up on us in such a way that it pushes back who we are and we forget. It pushes us back in such a way that we forget, right? And then we store. And then things lie dormant. And they can lie dormant so long that they can go away. That's true. They can go away. But when God gives you resurgence, and when he says that, revival is possible, that means he can bring it back to you. And that's what remembering is, right? To remember, to redo a thing that's already been done, right? So you are who you're supposed to be right now. That's hard for us sometimes, right? Identity theft is really the biggest trick of the enemy to steal who you are supposed to be, to steal your destiny, to steal your purpose, to steal the things that are actually set aside for you and you alone, right? Because remember, if you believe wrong, you'll walk wrong. So if you believe you're someone you're not, you will never lay hold to what is yours until you start to believe the truth about you, right? Going back to identity theft, all these things creep in and distort how we see ourselves and the words we say to ourselves and the things that we dwell on and that we meditate on and think about. So that's what last video I said metacognate. Think about what you're thinking about. That's operating in awareness. You have to operate in awareness at all times, just like you do with your wallet and identity theft and online, and you protect your identity because you know people are out there trying to steal it. Same goes for life. Here's the difference. Because we're thinking beings and because we have the power of choice, choice is a part of our superpower, right? Having the ability to choose is a part of what makes us different as a species, and it is also our likeness to God, right? He made us in his image, and that is a part of that, which means that is power, which means that it's intrinsic, it's built into you already. You don't have to go figure out how to do that. You just are. It's already established. Means it's already done. The only way a thief can take it from you is if you give it. I'm gonna let that sit for a minute. It's if you give it. You yield it over. Well, how do we yield it over? By what we think about. Well, how's that? Oh, okay. Well, I put some wrong thoughts in your mind, right? You start to stew on it, think about it, carry it around with you. It starts to make its way to your heart. Then you start to speak it out of your mouth, which is a part of your power. Life and death is in the power of the tongue. What you speak, those words are containers for life. You start to give life to wrong things. You hear yourself say it. If you're around wrong people, they'll repeat it. And then you hear that again, and then you start to believe it. And then once you believe a thing, it starts to form how you behave. It starts to form how you behave. An athlete believes he's an athlete, therefore he is, because he believes it. As a man thinketh, so he is. Right? So what you think about comes about, and it'll come about through your actions. All right, well, as a thief, if I can get you to think wrong, that's the only way I can take it from you. There's no other way. There's no other way. So now you're yielding it over to me because your thoughts are the thing that are manifesting your behaviors. So now you're thinking wrong. You're seeing yourself wrong. You got the wrong identity. You're going in a completely different direction because you have aligned yourself on a wrong path, right? Because those thoughts crept in. And guys, I'm talking from experience, so don't take this like an attack. No, this is hey, this is what I learned from doing the thing, you know, right? Because it happens to us. And this is encouragement. This is me saying, you don't have to stay there. This is me saying, this is a part of the process, right? That if we lay hold to who we truly are, and how do we do that? By our thoughts, taking hold of what we think about, removing wrong thoughts, removing things that take away and discourage and cause doubt, right? Get those things out of your mind, moving clarity, right? So identity theft, protecting your eyes and your ears and what you say. You got to stand at the gate of your mind. Why? Because that's where the battle is lost or won. It's in your mind. It's won or lost in your mind. If I'm coaching, you're like, oh, why are we talking about this so much? Because the mindset, right? The way you think about the things that you want to accomplish in your life, it all starts in your mind. If you don't see yourself doing it, if you don't identify the things you need to move out, they're going to take up space. One, they're going to take up more space, and they'll cause you to move wrong, and they'll cause you not to desire what you really can't have. Right? We got to start praying, make the things I need that which I desire. Make the desires of my heart be the thing that I also need, that will also increase me, that will also yield abundance in my life, right? Usually you already desire what you need. Outside of bad stuff, you know what's not good for you. We know that too, right? It's like I said, it's intrinsic, it's built in. You know it's not good for you. So when you're desiring things that you think are outside of your reach, that you don't think you can do, that you're just like, yeah, that'll happen years later, maybe, hopefully, I don't know. No, that's probably the real you. That's the stuff you need to pursue, right? That's the hard stuff you need to try and tackle, because on the other side of that is growth. On the other side of that, it is someone you don't know yet. who is you, right? I don't know if that's right. Which is who you are, right? That's the internal, that's the part of you that you need to pursue, right? You need to cast out all doubt so that you can move towards that. And you have the authority to do so because you've already been given that, right? You have already been given the authority to do that. So this is how you can block the sneak attacks on your identity. All these things I'm laying out right now, like all these things, you like bring them in and start to apply them in spaces where you know you need it, right? And this will prevent the sneak attack. This will prevent, identity theft from occurring in your life, right? The sooner we can identify wrong things and remove them, the better we are. The better off we are. So same goes like we were talking about. So we think a thing, if we believe a thing, we'll act on a thing. So we want to think and believe what God says about us, which is always going to be abundance. It's always going to be health and optimal gain in your life. It will be the best version of you, right? Believe that. Even if your emotions are tainted from baggage and tainted from things in life, don't worry about that, because your emotions will catch up with your mind if you don't let them lead you. Your emotions will catch up. They'll catch up. They're stuck for a little bit, but your mind can shift them over and allow them to move with you, right? That's the power that our mind holds. It is where all things are created. That's the power that God has given us. That's the authority. Early Bible Genesis says, that he talks about, he created man in his image, that he can multiply. That he can multiply, right? Produce seed, multiply. What is a seed? What does a seed do? It produces after itself. After everything that it needs to produce is already built inside of it. Only thing it has to do is end up in the right environment. The seed really, it doesn't really have a lot of ability to figure out where it's going, but we do, right? So if we're seeds, then put yourself in the right environment so everything that's in you can be released, right? So the seed has a shell around it that protects everything that's on the inside, that allows it to grow into that which it is supposed to be. If it's an apple tree, all of a sudden, once that shell falls away, there's a death that occurs there. We'll grieve that loss because that's what we were familiar with for a long time. Like I talked about being overweight for a long time, I didn't know how to move into what was now. Once that weight was released, I had to see what was in front of me, right? It took a while, but that was a death, a shedding away, right, of old things. So now that's gone, that shell is gone, and what's on the inside can be released. And then the process starts, right? The germination of the seed begins. And so what's in it can be released. The roots go deep. We don't see anything yet. So we don't think things are happening, but they are. And then all of a sudden it's a time release, because you won't stay underground the whole time. There's a time release built into it. Y'all know I talked about a gallon of water. I carry it with me because I got to stay true to it, right? This is one of my goals, one of my disciplines I need to put back in place. But that seed releases what's on the inside. And before you know it, it sprouts up. It sprouts up over the dirt, the soil. It presses through all the hard things. And the apple tree begins to grow. And it starts small. And then as it grows and grows and grows, it then starts to produce fruit. Now you see the efforts that are starting to come off of that tree. And inside of the fruit is another seed identical to the fruit that just came off the tree. And the process starts all over again. Process is attached to process. We create after ourselves. What we are, we attract. And we have the ability to duplicate. Because that's how we were created. That's how we were created. And the only time you can start that duplication and that growth process and be conscious of it is when you are moving in agreement, right? We talked about accountability, identifying things, taking ownership is basically what accountability is. Now, here's the next step in accountability. It's agreement. What am I agreeing with? Like if we say, be obedient to an instruction, agree with what you see, who you are, what you see in your mind, how you see yourself in your mind, even if it's not who you are, where you are, if it's not where you are today, agree with that. That power of agreement will move you into action, because obedience is two parts. So if I'm going to say, all right, I see in my mind's eye a version of me. If I'm to obey the fact, and obeying is a part of believing. Why? Because it's two part. Because the first part is, I agree with that, what I see. I agree with that. I agree with that. The more I agree with that, the more I'll start to believe that, and then I will start to act on it, and I'll start to do the things that lead me to that. And it's intrinsic. It'll start to come out because that's a part of what's in me in the seed. That's making sense, right? That's the power of agreement. Be fruitful, multiply. There's duality in that. There's growth in that. And every time you do that over and over, that duplication, that rhythm, that process, right? You're building confidence, and you're further establishing the right identity for yourself. So who are you, right? That's what you have to ask. Who am I? Anything you attach to I am, you are. You can determine that. You can speak life into that. You can choose to believe that. And then you can walk into it. And you can be it. Right? That's what we want to do. Lay out your goals. Lay out your goals. Like when I say lay it out, I mean write it out on paper. Give it life. Get it out of your head. Make it a word. Give it life. So you can start to move it into your life. You can start to create that environment. And then as we move into next week, because I'm basically giving y'all my program here, we're going through the first phase of this program is stability. That's what we've been in this week, whether or not you've watched in the videos. I mean, they're not as long as what a full coaching would be, but it's the same stuff. So stability, building a foundation so that you can be stable on shaky ground. Stability. And I align this to personal training and fitness, because that's the first phase of any fitness program that I put people through. It's stability. We have to find the weak areas, identify weaknesses, identify your baggage, right? Identify weaknesses, and that's what I start to work on to make it stronger. So when I begin to add weight and resistance to their program, they won't fall. They won't break a knee. Can you break a knee? Okay, I don't know. They won't blow out a knee. They won't break limbs, right? They won't incur injury because we've identified weak areas and we've moved them out. Same for our life. This is stability. This is training. This is process. This is how we get to the growth in our life. All right. I'm done. But I just want to share. Have a beautiful day. Remember, this is day one. If you treat every day like day one, there will never be an end in sight. I just realized I'm not looking at the camera. It's right here. Anyway, there will never be an end in sight, because every day is a new day to do today what we did not do yesterday. Right? Resurgence, restart, revival. Let there be action where there used to be inaction. Be disturbed by inaction, as one of my coaches says. Be disturbed by inaction. And keep moving. All right, live, learn, grow.